Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about politics now after that we've seen the mini budget sail through in the parliament. What kind of politics can we expect from the opposition? We'll be talking about that. What other difficulties are they likely to face now in the face of the changing situation after the passing of the mini budget? What kind of increases are we looking at? We'll also be talking about the future of the PDM and the PPP alliance. We are also seeing in Karachi the protest over the Sindh local government bill. We'll be talking about that also, what it means for the government and the opposition at this time, and what can happen, who will retract as far as the bill is concerned. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Dr. Humayun Muhammad, Senator PTI. Thank you for joining us today. We have with us Kamar Zaman Kaira from the PPP. Thank you for joining us. We also have with us Rafiq Rajwana from the PMLN. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Humayun, overall, the situation that you've seen as far as passing of this mini budget is concerned. We've been talking earlier also about the politics on it. Leaving aside the politics, how do you think that overall it was a token protest? The opposition was more or less complacent as far as the passing of this bill was concerned. They were also quite sure that it would, of course, sail through considering the numbers that the government has, but also that it's needed. It was needed at this time.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and thank you very much for inviting me. First of all, how I see this, you call it money bill or whatever, it's in the right direction.
Okay.
You see, one of the biggest hoo-ha that people have made is about the outsourcing of the state bank and everything. But what people are doing, what politicians or what oppositions are doing, they are saying that actually we have given over the state bank to somebody else, right? But if you really see, all you are doing is initially the government would bring in the head of the state bank, and whenever they needed the money, they would ask that guy to give the money, and that guy, like a good munshi, will hand over that money.
Okay.
Right. Now what has been done,
that there's a board of governors.
When they ask it, they will say, sorry, you need to do your own homework before spending this money. So in other words, now the government cannot ask the state bank to cover them up for their shortfalls or for their non-calculated expenditures or whatever they wanted to do. So in a way, they have actually given the authority to that. Now, what they are saying maybe is Baqi Raza is, you know, he has got a history of working for an IMF, but that's also credibility towards him that he is such a good person that IMF actually took him over. Because IMF and such institutions would not take anybody, you know, with no experience and no insight towards the financial aspects of it. So yes, he is Pakistani, yes, he came back, yes, he joined it, but tomorrow when the board of governors will appoint another head of the state bank, that would be somebody from maybe Pakistan. So this is the right direction for it. And I think
let me come back to you.
Yes, sure.
Javed Sab, you know, we also have with us Javed Siddique, who's a political analyst. Javed Sab, before I go to Kaira Sab, you know, Senator Humayun is saying that this is in the right direction. He's also saying that, I think you missed some of what he said. He's also saying that, you know, overall, as far as the issue, the controversy over the board of governors is concerned, is not, you know, state bank is concerned, now being governed by a board of governors, which is what the finance minister said, actually means that we're not relinquishing the control, but we're actually giving this, empowering the state bank, if I'm not wrong. Do you agree with that?
I think world over, the central banks are autonomous. And they're out of the influence of government. And they frame their independent monetary policies and fiscal policies. So I think there has been a demand here in Pakistan as well that state banks should be given autonomy. And I think the IMF has demanded of the government of Pakistan to give full autonomy to State Bank of Pakistan. That's why this legislation has been brought in.
So you agree largely. Let me come back.
Yes, I do agree with it. And I think the finance minister has made it very clear that the board of governors would be appointed by the government. So therefore, it is not wise to say
so
that the government
there is going to be a board of governors, but the government, of course, will appoint it, and it is giving autonomy, in your opinion, to the institution.
And they have a say in the essential affairs of the State Bank of Pakistan. So it is not good to say, or it's not correct to say that the State Bank is out of the purview of the Parliament of Pakistan.
Right. Let me come back to you. Ji, Kamar Zaman Kaira Saab. Ji, Kaira Saab, the stance of the opposition, of course, is that this is essentially relinquishing control. We're giving IMF control. We've surrendered autonomy. All of those things. But if the government is going to control the board of governors that then is appointed over the state bank, how can you say that? Can you clarify what the opposition stance is on this?
Thank you. First of all, the issue was regarding the mini budget, which is basically enhanced taxation or additional taxation of around 350 billion rupees. Now the government is saying, or the finance minister is saying, that more than 200 billion will be just a passover tax and it will be just documentation. Unfortunately, this is not true, because merely documentation doesn't mean anything. That will not make any difference. IMF is demanding from Pakistan government to produce or to create more resource, more funds, more taxation. They are not saying you to impose such a tax or enhance the sales tax or enhance such a tax. They are asking you to have more revenue. And this is a way with the government. Now, government is saying that we are just giving a notional number and it will be just for documentation, and no real tax will come to the government kitty. This is absolutely amazing for me. This is absolutely contradictory, because the demand of the IMF...
They will not really be collecting any tax.
It is a tax. Whether you are withdrawing the subsidies given already, it will ultimately enhance the price. It will raise the price, because now the subsidy will go away and the price will remain same. So what will happen? If you are enhancing the number of taxes or the ratio of taxes, proportionate ratio of taxes, ultimately it will enhance the raise rate, it will enhance the price, and the price will ultimately be, or enhancement or any rise will ultimately go to the end user, to the final
fair enough.
Common man.
Kaira Saab, please stay with us. Let me go to Rafiq Rajwana Saab, and then I think this is a question for Senator Humayun. Ji Rajwana Saab, what Kamar Zaman Saab is saying, he's saying is that ultimately when you talk about the increase, whichever way you look at it, it's going to translate into an increase for the consumer. That doesn't seem wrong. Is that what the PMLN is also saying?
Just let me start from the very beginning. When you had posed a question to the senator of PTI, and then Mr. Javed had commented on this. I just remember, as a student of economics, about 20 or 30 years back, there was an article in the Daily Dawn. And the title was, I had read myself, and the title was, Can the IMF topple the governments? And while going through whole of the article, the crux was yes, because the IMF can impose such conditions while lending the money to the borrower, and those conditions definitely which we are confronted with now. I'll come to that in the later part of my humble submissions. So these are the conditions, and keeping that article in view, as I recall, I cherish my memories, the IMF has to secure its lending. It doesn't bother that International Monetary Fund people do not matter at all. They have no concern with the people of Pakistan. Now come to the people of Pakistan and the government and the regime at present, and the parliament also at the present moment. When IMF is imposing such conditions, including the autonomy of the State Bank of Pakistan, yes, and in developed countries, the central banks are autonomous, but we are not the developed countries. We are passing through a phase with interruption in the democracy also. There's another topic. So my view is that this money budget, mini budget, and then the autonomy of the state bank, those are interlinked, and those are on the conditions of the IMF. Had there been a brainstorming by the government, by the experts, by the think tank, by the standing committees, by the parliament, that this is the need of our country. All what has been done, that was the need of the IMF. And the Prime Minister has said that we are helpless at certain stages. We have to go IMF, and they impose their conditions. So what I have said in the very outset, that the IMF has imposed the conditions, and there is already an unrest because of the earlier price hike and whatsoever we'll discuss in the later part of this discussion. So my humble view is that the autonomy of the state bank was not required at this stage, at this juncture where we are confronted with such a situation. Anyhow, nobody can take credit of this thing on the treasury benches, because it's not their effort, it's not their brainstorming, it's not their legislation, it's the legislation on the asking of IMF. So kindly take care of the people and don't say that they'll not be affected. They're already affected. And we have to forge a policy.
You're saying if it's at the behest of the IMF and the government had no choice, then you're admitting to the fact that if it was any other government, they would be doing the same thing. There really isn't anything else we can do, considering the situation we are in as far as our economy is concerned at this time.
After 3.5 years of so-called governance, had there been good governance, had there been good monetary policies, had there been good fiscal policies, had there been other good policies, and the governance would have been in the fittest possible way, in the fitness of the things, then I think that this stage would not have come, that the IMF should have imposed this condition. And then I still recall the statement of Asad Umar Saab. Once he said that we should have gone to the IMF first. And then I recall those days when Imran Khan Saab, while he was in the opposition and while he was addressing the Dharna people and other people, that we will not go to IMF. I would like to commit suicide instead of going to IMF. So there should be a thinking before we speak. Now,
Rajwana Saab, let me come back to you. Senator Humayun, I hope that you've been hearing what Rajwana Saab is saying. He said that, the fact that delay, let me just say this, that as far as delay in going to IMF is concerned or other decisions are concerned, your government has been the subject of constant criticism as far as, doing things late is concerned. Whether it's going to the IMF, whether there are a host of other decisions, if you look back, which have been criticized over that. Do you think that there is generally, because of course at this time, this is the first time that PTI has been in power. Do you think that there have been those delays? Do you think that those delays could have been avoided? That would perhaps have led to better, more timely decisions, would have led to better consequences. Do you think that's true?
Okay. Let me start with this. First of all, Rafiq Saab actually acknowledged that this is how the state bank should be.
Yes.
Irrespective of who is asking you. If it would be for their government, they would have never done it, because they have been taking money out. Okay. In their 5 years tenure, they have paid $550 billion as a markup in order to keep down the dollar rate, because so that they can send the dollar outside.
Okay.
PTI, on the other hand, has paid back $10.7 billion of the principal amount.
Okay.
So that is one thing. Number two, let's do like this.
But for the people, of course, the dollar is at 187.
It is. But that is the actual value of dollar, right?
Okay.
That is exactly. So what they have done, they have artificially created the dollar rate down. That would probably help only those people who can buy dollar in Pakistan and send it abroad, rather than from abroad bringing it in. Now, let me tell them, in 2017-18, the monthly growth of PMLN from June 2017, July 2017 to June 2018 dropped down from 30% to 9.4%. No true economy can drop down in that thing. The whole economy was based on nothing but a bubble. It's all on the black money. It's all on speculative money, right? Let me respond to our honorable leader Qamar Zawahir Kara. He is I really admire him. But just for a comparison, from 2019 to 2021, Sindh, they have increased their revenue. I'm talking about the word revenue from 2.3 trillion to 3 trillion. Right? That is what the Sindh government has done from 2019 to 2021. And Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has done it from 887,267 billion to 206.359 billion. That means an increase of 136% as opposed to their 29%. Something must have been done correctly to get that thing. Now, let me give you one more analogy and then you can take it from me. Now, in 3 years of PTI today has made 4.7 trillion revenue. In 2017-18, it was 2.4 trillion. So PTI has increased by 95%. Pakistan Muslim League Noon, when they came in, after 3 years, they made 1.4 trillion from 1.1 trillion. That means they only increased to 40%. And People's Party, after 3.5 years, they made 955 billion from 620, which is 57% only. So that means we have improved our revenue, put them both together. That is how much we have done. So something is going in the right direction. I totally understand. There is a little bit of inflation and everything. But if the direction is correct, sooner or later, we will hit the right road.
Okay, let me come back. Javed Sahab, all the figures that, I'm not disputing anything that Senator Sahab said, all the figures that he's talked about, but do you think that it matters to the average person outside how much trillions have been added to the exchequer at this point? I'm not saying that it may not. I mean, if the direction is right, what Senator Sahab is saying, will maybe translate later, but at this point, how much do you think it matters?
I think playing with figures is one thing, but a matter of the fact is that the people at the lowest ebb of the society, they are suffering a lot because of this rising inflation. And also, the PTI, when it came into power, it raised the hopes of the common people that PTI will fix the economic woes, economic problems of Pakistan by adopting some prudent and wise policies, economic policies, which has not happened. There are factors, of course, there's COVID factor, there are other factors also, but I think they have not been able to run and manage the economy in a wise manner so that they could have controlled the inflation because it is hitting very hard. And the PTI is paying a price for that.
Which is what Kaira Sahab and
exactly, they are paying a price. In the recent local bodies polls in KP, which has been a strong, forte of the PTI, they have lost these elections. And I think they are also gauging the situation in Punjab, and I believe that they are aware of the facts that if local bodies elections are held in Punjab, probably they will be facing a worse situation. And that is on account of this bad performance on the economic front.
They're saying that they have, as far as Rajwana Sahab is saying, and overall, it seems that they had little choice. And like you are saying, the fact that they have to go back to the people in not less than, less than 2 years from now, should concern the normal politician, their normal, whoever has to contest the polls, the normal member at this time as far as PTI is concerned. And there were things that were said about some concern that was voiced in the parliamentary meeting also.
Yes, I think the MNAs of PTI are worried because they have to go to the people again to get votes, to seek votes. So I think they should go there with a better performance, and with a very good performance, positive performance, so that they can get vote and outsmart and outdo their political rivals. But unfortunately, it seems very difficult for the PTI MNAs to go to the people and ask for the votes with this performance. So between now and the coming elections, they'll have to do something extraordinary to basically give relief to the people and the common people specifically so that they can win some seats again.
Ji, Kaira Saab, overall, as far as what Senator Saab is saying, he's saying that as far as the direction is concerned, they've set the right direction, that there may be a little bit inflation or price hike at this time, but as far as the direction is concerned, the economy is headed in the right direction. This, of course, echoes what the Prime Minister says. What are your thoughts on this?
Let me make some clarification. As far as the revenue side of it, it is not true that People's Party is only 67%. Let me give you correct figure. When in 2008, People's Party took over as is in a very critical times. That was the worst time of terrorism, of the international recession. Everything was there. We at that time in 2008, the revenue, total federal revenue was 1.1 trillion.
Okay.
In 2013, when we left, it was 2.12 trillions. 2.12. We made it double, almost double. In Muslim League, when Muslim League took over, it was 2.12, and when they left it was 3.83.
Okay. So,
Now,
so you're saying, so
last
it
year,
significantly kept increasing in every tenure.
budget, it was almost 4 point something. So, but if you want to get the correct figures, please put the correct figures. This is your figure, 4.7, and now you are assessing that you will touch around 6 trillion. I am sorry, your last time, 3 times you have to revise your targets of the revenue, and the final revenue target was unfortunately could not achieve. Apart from the devaluation, apart from the heavy taxation, everything went there. As far as the deal is concerned, it's a badly negotiated deal, and Prime Minister has agreed with that there was pressure from IMF. This is the government which has to take the pressure and which have to tackle the issues. If you are just asking that it was demanded by them and you agreed with that all the time, IMF, whenever there is IMF program in the world, IMF put their own conditions, and then it becomes the scales and the negotiations with the government of the day deals with that. We dealt it, and then now the people are saying it was much better deal than the present government. Apart from this, that at that time we were in a very difficult time.
But
Bas,
don't you think overall, over time, things have successively gone worse? And, that is what's happened even now. As far as the PTI is concerned, they're saying that, look, when we got it, look at the situation we were handed over. So to make it right, we've had to take all of these measures, and for us to set the right direction, this is what we've had to do. But that, for this is a difficult pill to swallow at this time for the people of this country, but eventually it will translate into a better economy overall, a more documented economy, more tax, more tax to GDP ratio, all of those things.
hello.
Kaira Saab? Ji.
G.
I'm
giving
saying
you
that what
correct.
they're saying is that
What
this is
was
what
the
they were.
problem with this government? When they took over, the country there was no terrorism. When they took over, Pakistan's revenue was almost 4 trillion. When they took over, Pakistan's exports were much better than this. In our time, when it was the worst time, we touched to 25.5 billion US dollars. This government has not achieved even that. All the government departments, all the state institution, and the world was with them. So what went wrong? If they say that there was a corona issue was not only in Pakistan. In corona, Bangladesh economy, they performed much better than Pakistan because of their own policies. The Indian economy, India hit by corona much worse than Pakistan. but
don't think we
their
can
economy
compare with
performed
India.
better.
Ji, Kaira Saab, let me come back to you. Rajwana Saab, you know, as far as the PMLN is concerned, at this time, the way things were at that time, you know, Senator Saab has been talking about the fact how, you know, artificially the dollar was jacked up during your time. And that is also one of the reasons why, you know, we are where we are as far as the price of the dollar is concerned. What do you say to that?
I would say that instead of taking care of their own problems, their own failures, they are objecting, with all due respect to my worthy senator, they are objecting the previous governments that People's Party did this thing, PMLN did this thing, and it was artificial control of dollar. It was not artificial. It was just because of the financial governance. It was just because of the people at the helm of affairs who knew their jobs, who had worked there for since long, and they had proven it. I don't say that our regime was ideal or People's Party regime was ideal, but the question is that let the people say, and you should ask the common man, and Delhi, everybody watches on the television network.
Everyone's going to ask the common man not less than two now. You know, if the elections are when they're expected, you know, you are going to the common man. Everyone's going to the common man. So there will be a verdict in favor of or against this government, regardless, right?
My friend was saying that they have increased the revenue in KPK, they have increased the revenue in federal government and all that. That increase is because of the tax enhancement. You look at the electricity bill. Just have a look on that. How many taxes are included in that? How the cost of this electricity has gone to such a high position. About a day back, some of my client who owns an oil mill, he was saying, I am paying 30 rupees per unit electricity. In our regime, we had put the power generation plants and all that. I say, don't raise any objection on me. Just look after your problems, look after your kitty, and you have been elected.
They say that, you know, they can't not go back and they can't not look back because that's what they were handed over as far as the kitty was concerned. So they can't keep not going back to the fact that, look, this is what you gave us, what were we supposed to do with it? This is what the PTI says. Let me come back to you. Please stay with us. Ji, Senator Saab.
I will quickly comment on two things. First of all, when they said whatever data I have been saying, it's on the FBR. They can go and check. I'm sure they will do that thing. Regarding the taxations, our direct taxations rose from 2013-14 from 877 billion to 1.7 trillion. Now, rightly pointed out, we have not increased the taxes, we have increased the base of the tax from 700,000 to 3 million. Now, mind you, a population of 220 million people should have at least 220 million taxpayers. Now, if I divide 4.7 trillion over 3 million, it comes to about 1.5 million per year tax on every individual. Our 13 million people who are supposed to pay tax are not paying tax. Right. Quick comment on Kaira Saab's comment, right, on subsidies. We are not removing subsidies. When you people were giving subsidy, you were giving to the sugar mill owners, you were giving to the flour mill owners, you were giving to the oil people owners. We are taking that subsidy out from them and we are giving a totally targeted subsidy to the people who need it from the SAS program. So it is not that we are removing it. We are just removing it from your friends and from those people who are earning money. Why should we give subsidy to the sugar mill owner? Why should we give subsidy to the oil mill owner? Why can't we give the subsidy to the people? And health card, it is the biggest gift that anybody can give, a safety net to the whole family of 1 million rupees per annum. Nothing like that.
Ji, Javed Saab, do you agree? I mean, as far as utilities, bills of utilities are concerned, I'm sure they concern the average consumer, they concern the middle class,
See,
they concern the lower
the common
class.
people do not understand this logic of price hike, inflation, and widening the tax base and all these things.
What they understand is that if they were paying 20
Yes,
before, they're now
actually
going to be paying
the common
40.
people measure the economic plight or the economic situation of the country and them and their own by going to the market. If they get prices, less prices, and the things are not very expensive for them to buy, they'll be happy.
But
And
Janitha, when
that
we
is
talk
the
about, just one
barometer.
second, as far as collecting tax is concerned, when you put 17% tax, so if you go to a jeweler, for example, what you get is they probably come back and they say that, do you want a bill or not? So invariably, nobody wants to pay that 17% tax. So what you so there's this whole evasion of tax anyway.
This is very unfortunate. That the people in Pakistan and I think the world over are reluctant to pay taxes. And in Pakistan, particularly the rich people who should be taxed, who should be ready to give tax to this country, they are not ready to do it. That's very unfortunate. And this has been done in the past as well. The PPP, the PML and
even
other
if you're
governments.
buying, I mean, even for the people who are, going to, for example, let me go to Kaira Sabji. Kaira Sab, even people, when you talk about taxing the rich, even people who are going to go and buy, for example, gold, or they're going to buy jewelry, when you're talking about 6, 7, 8 million rupees, the question invariably is that, would you rather have a bill or not have a bill? And then, the answer, of course, is no, I don't want a bill. So there is still that evasion of tax that's going to continue, no?
Look, as far as I am concerned, I know the history, or I have read the history. There was no nation in the world at any point of time who was voluntarily paying taxes. Voluntarily. So taxes are to be collected with force, with law, from any society. Yes,
You think that these measures will yield a better tax base? You think that they will yield more taxes for the government?
As far as the tax, please let me conclude. As far as our tax regime is concerned or tax style is concerned, majority of our tax is indirect tax, and indirect tax ultimately passes on to the end consumer, which is common man. Majority of them are common man. So question is, the rich person should be taxed more, and that is the direct tax. The only way to tax the rich person is direct taxation. In our country, even now, even in this government, the gap between rich and poor is widening. The rich is becoming more and more filthy rich or fatty rich. But unfortunately, they have blocks over there, they have their representation over there, they have so-called cartels over there, and they avoid taxation in the policy. They don't allow the state to put them under heavy tax. They should be taxed. Direct taxation is the only way forward. Unfortunately, all the governments, including the present government, we cannot put direct taxes, and the indirect tax, only way to collect more tax is the indirect tax, and that is a tax which is passed on to the end consumer, and end consumer is ultimately a common man. If a rich man or industrialist or a big man, if his commodities are taxed, he has to pay 17% tax. Ultimately, he adds that tax into his production, in his production cost, and that passes on to
I get your point. You're saying that it's eventually, of course, a burden that's passed on to the consumer. Ji, Rajwana Saab, do you think, it's the same question to you, do you think that these measures, however harsh for the common man, in your opinion, will perhaps lead to more revenue for the government? Rajwana Saab, can you hear me? I think there's a problem with audio. Ji.
Okay, let me just add to that, right?
Ji.
When we are talking about direct taxations, this government has introduced track and trace system.
Okay.
So in other words, everything that you do, we are tracking your lifestyle, and then assessing your lifestyle against your taxpayer, and then we are reaching that, and that is absolutely true. If we, the rich people, are not going to pay the direct taxes, somebody will pay that, and that will be indirect taxes. So we are improving. Just an analogy, if, as I said earlier, 20 million, we are 3 million only paying tax. If that 13 million people pay, at this time 30 million are paying 4.7 trillion. That comes to about 1.5 million per person. Forget about 1.5. If I add 1 million per person on 17 million people to pay direct taxes, Pakistan will make 17 trillion rupees as a tax revenue. 17 trillion means plus 4 trillion means 21 trillion per year revenue. If you, how much Pakistan owe to the internal and external debts? About 26 trillion. It will be less than 1.25 years to pay back all the taxes. And what happens after that? Every money goes back into Pakistan, the taxes go down, the indirect taxes go down, the development goes there. This is exactly what Imran Khan is trying. And what we are facing? We are facing the big guns who have got captured, the elite. Pakistan economy is elite captured economy. The same people owns textiles, sugar, oil, everything is by those 22, 23, 24 families, and they are sitting everywhere. So this is the only government, this is the only leader who does not care who is sitting there, whether it was his friend, his colleague or his. If he comes in the line of fire, he will do it for the sake of this country. So that is exactly what we need. We need somebody to find out whose lifestyle is more than his tax paying capacity, and then go to him and find him. Unfortunately, it is, I admit, unfortunately, our departments like FBR are not very friendly. They should be more friendlier. Our customs, not very friendly. Pakistan economy is 90% black economy. And why? Because we have been ruled by jet black financial terrorists.
Okay. Ji, Javed Sab.
I think
Let me go to one second. Let me go to Rafiq Saab. I'll come back to you. Ji, Rafiq Saab, I hope that you were hearing Senator Humayun. He was saying that we were dealing with black economy, and of course to document it, these measures are needed. All of those things. As far as these measures are concerned, overall, as far as the opposition is concerned, certainly at this time, you saw, as far as Maryam Nawaz is concerned, she said yesterday that at one time there was a general belief that let the government continue, and that would be in whatever they were doing, and then go to the people. But at this time, the way things are, she and your party feel that now it's absolutely essential that the government go, because things are getting harder. Is there a plan to do? What's the PMLN's plan? Is there a way forward in that direction? What do you propose to do?
I can't say on this what is the plan, because I was not in that meeting or in any other meeting. I had never participated whereby such like discussions were made. But anyhow, whatsoever we listen from the party leadership, and they are thinking there is. I say that I should talk as a common man. About 2 days back, I was also discussing on some television channel on this issue, that whether if Imran Khan continues for another 1.5 years, whether it will be beneficial to the country or whether it will be more harmful to the country. And my opinion is, first of all, I would have preferred that this regime should continue for 5 years, and they should complete, and he will be the first prime minister who might be completing 5-year terms, because neither Yusuf Gilani could complete 5 years term, nor Mia Nawaz Sharif could complete 5-year terms, and they are highly questionable things on the basis of which they were ousted from the power corridor. Now, as far as the present regime is concerned, my thinking is that whatsoever the policies, I just quote the example of KPK. In KPK, whatsoever was the performance of the PTI government, they are ruling that province for the last 2 tenures, okay? And then the first ever health card was introduced in KPK. Even then, the performance and the result of the local bodies election is quite clear, evident, and everybody knows. And just my friend from PTI senator was discussing the increase in the revenue, and what the common man has reacted, and what a response the common man has given in the KPK election.
Right.
So my personal view is...
Right, okay. Ji, Kaira Saab, your quick comments. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Overall, please. No, he can't. Ji Javed Sahab.
I think the economic problems of Pakistan are chronic problems. We need to widen the tax base and we need to take action against those people who are avoiding the documentation of economy.
Which is what the government is saying.
This is very important and I think the government is serious to introduce this, but there will be problems for them. The FBR people, the machinery which is collecting the taxes and the businesses, they are not ready to do it. And there have been efforts in the past as well that the economy should be documented, it should be a white economy. But the black economy is so big in size that it is not allowing it to happen. So unfortunately that despite all incentives, the documentation of economy
It remains a huge challenge.
Is an uphill task.
Right.
And I wish success to the PTI government. If they are able to document economy, that will be a big achievement as far as the economic front is concerned.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Senator Humayun, thank you for joining us. Javed Siddique Saab, thank you for joining us. Qamar Zaman Kaira Saab, thank you for being with us. Rafiq Rajwana Saab, thank you for your time. Of course, as far as the government is concerned, the Prime Minister also, for them taking these measures certainly seem revolutionary. There's also a lot that is being said as far as documenting the economy, changing it, improving the tax to GDP ratio of Pakistan is concerned. All of these are perhaps measures that are ambitious for the government to take. Let's see in what direction they go. They're certainly challenging. And with the opposition, the way that it is, criticizing the government at every turn without really giving out any alternatives at this time, certainly it seems an uphill task. One hopes that the economy will recover more, which is what the Prime Minister says. He says in the next couple of months, we will see a changed economy. We will see the price hike inflation significantly reduced. Let's hope that that happens. Let's hope things get significantly easier for the common man. Thank you so much for being with us today. Have a good weekend and Khuda Hafiz.